this, there is also the natural situation that, as with any reasonably involved piece of technology, things will tend to go wrong. When that happens, it's useful to know where to look to find potential solutions. Of course, the last resort is to summon a nerdmaster to save the day. But it is so much more satisfying to save the day yourself when you can. So I'm going to help you accomplish feats of debugging wizardry, hopefully, fingers crossed, and help you get strategies for wrangling Eventbrite malfunctions. All right, so there are a few pieces to check when something goes awry. The first thing to check is the help center. This may seem incredibly simple and straightforward, but when you click that little question mark button, you've got this entire documentation. As a professional programmer, which is mostly a professional debugger, right, who goes and looks up help articles, that's mostly what the job is. Read the documentation. It really makes a difference. A lot of the answers in here. When I was super confused and trying to figure out how to fix things when the recurring versus multi-event thing went crazy, because it tends to. I appreciate what Roberta does with the recurring events. I absolutely hate them. I almost never use them because they are a pain to work with and they don't integrate with Facebook very well. Those are my main complaints with it. She is a fairy godmother, and so she has cheats. But when I was trying to figure it out, I spent a lot of time scouring articles in here. So like this particular article actually is creating multiple data recurring events. And it goes through an actual really good detail about the difference between these two and how to do them effectively. So this is actually a really good article. I'm actually going to post it in chat here for everyone. And then there's another one relevant to this, which is if you accidentally make something recurring and you want to make it non-recurring, which also happens. That's really complicated. And it has a whole dedicated article helping you do that. So those are good articles to read at a point. But these have a lot of information about all kinds of different pieces for getting things set up. So go check to see if there's an article already on it, giving you a walkthrough. And that's a really good place to start. Something else to bear in mind is that Eventbrite tends to hide features that you can't use until you complete a different step. So if you want to access the online event page, you have to make your event online first. It won't be there otherwise, right? If you're wanting to promote your event for a boost, you have to actually create a paid ticket first. Otherwise, that whole swath of features aren't available to you, and so on. So there's a lot of pieces like that just as a mental hack. If you don't see a future step, keep walking through the steps. You'll eventually get there, and it will likely the steps will appear underneath you magically most of the time. The other thing to keep in mind is that computers always do what they are told to do, not what you mean them to do, but what they are told to do. This is the fundamental law of debugging. Computers do what they're told to do, not what you mean them to do. So go back and figure out what did you actually tell them to do. There's always some explanation for what's going wrong. And typically it's user error. I'm the user who causes most of the errors that I deal with most of the time. There are a couple other tips that are common errors. If you are trying to edit an event, it often blocks you if you have a ticket that is incompatible with the change you're trying to make. So if you're trying to reschedule a day of an event and the ticket times don't match with that, it'll throw a fit. So fix the ticket first, then fix the rest of the pieces. Is one really big hang up that I've run into a lot. Also, making sure that online event page is either filled or turned off is the other really super big one. And the other really big problem that people have run into, I'm just running through the last few key ones that we've run into before, is when you are linking a Facebook event account. If you have your own Eventbrite account with your own club and you only have one person who's managing it, then including your Facebook account to link with it can work. If you are doing it with a shared one, you can link it, but you have to unlink it. And if you're going in afterwards and somebody else is linked, you can push through and you can disconnect it, but it's a pain, but you can do it. So there's something to be aware of, that linking your Facebook account can cause reverted headaches. So these are the big pieces, though. I really want to circle back, though, to the fundamental principle of debugging is that Google is your friend. Somebody else has probably already ran into that same problem somewhere else in the world. If you Google it, you will likely find answers. And typically those answers will be on the Eventbrite documentation. And so digging around and experimenting is actually a really great way of figuring it out.
Or
those are
look
some
on
of the initial
YouTube.
pieces.
It's amazing how many great instructional, helpful videos I find on things having nothing to do with YouTube on YouTube.
Yes, absolutely true. So YouTube has a lot of really helpful stuff like that. All right, that is how to shoot troubles relevant to Eventbrite. And I will turn it back over to Kyle for our break.
Game over.